be another doctor. And then they just said I should just go and get tested. So they directed me to a place where I went to take my sample. And then they said, just go home. Be in quarantine, we'll get in touch with you. And then I think that's it. I went home confused. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, basically. So I think when I go home, the first thing I did was get electricity and then water. Then I just went into my room, I locked my door, and I think I started crying.
Wow. What did you think was going to happen to you?
Because I was with this person for a very long time, the thought of it was, I just thought I had it.
But why did you think you had it? I mean, at that point, even though he was a diabetic patient, I'm assuming you didn't go crazy putting on all the PPEs.
Yes.
And why did you think you could potentially be exposed?
Because we were not properly gowned. We were not gowned, even though I did take care of him with gloved hands at a point. But I had the suspicion over the night because he started coughing and then the breath was not so good. So I had my suspicions. So when they called me and said, your suspicions have been confirmed, I really knew, like, because I was with him for a very long time in an air-conditioned room as well, I really knew that with all the breathing that has been going on throughout the 14 hours or something that I was with him, really, I knew I had come in contact with it and I was infected.
What was that 1 week like for you, your first week at home?
So the very first day, I remember the very first day when I went home, so they asked me to buy a thermometer, take my temperatures in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they gave me a diary that I should record every other symptom, and then the time that the symptom occurred. So I think the very first day I went home, in the evening, I recorded a very high temperature, and I was warm, I was anxious, I was agitated. I think at a point in time, even if I sneeze, like normally we sneeze or we cough, when I get a little funny feeling in my throat, I'm like, no, this is a sign. I just go and record funny feeling in my throat, but I can't really tell whether it's itching or I'll just write funny feeling in my throat. It was very difficult. I was going through a whole lot of emotion. First of all, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. Well, so they got me a clinical psychologist later who was calling to check up on me. But before that, I couldn't talk to anybody about it because of the person in question, the one that I was in contact with. And then the fact that my departmental head and then my doctor was trying to keep it on a very low tone. So I didn't even... Up till now, some of my colleagues I work with, they don't even know that I went on quarantine. They knew I had been given a sick leave, but they didn't know I was under quarantine.
So at what point would you say you began to become a little more hopeful about the situation?
Okay. So on between the 5th and the 7th day, I think I got sick. I actually got sick. So I had fever, I had those things around the mouth, we call
fever
it herpes.
blisters.
Yes, I got that one, and then by then I knew I had gotten the disease. Then they called me, I think about a week after the first test, and then they told me the result was negative.
Wow.
But because I had that blisters, which is also like a viral infection kind of, I said, maybe I took the test too early. Yeah, so they didn't detect the virus. So I should take another one like after the 7 days. Then the clinical psychologist kept calling me and telling me that once the result is positive, just take it, it's positive. So I started recovering. They said, just take your vitamins, do your exercises, eat well, sleep well, and be okay. So I think after the first result, and I recovered after that 3-day illness, I recovered. I was able to do my exercises. I was able to I started conscientizing myself that once the result is negative, let's just take it like that, I'm negative. So I think that was at a point, and I was in contact with the person with some 2 other people whose results also came in negative.
Nice.
So then I accepted, okay, then probably it's true, I'm negative.
Wow.
So let me just take it like it's negative and just be okay with myself. So
now, in a situation like this, where there's a lot of anxiety and pressure, and all of that, what are some of the things you feel were important that helped you to keep your head above water?
So my head of department, Martha, she was very helpful. She called me every day. She's a nurse of Mommy. So she used to call me every day. She would pray with me. She would talk to me. She would talk to me about work. And then we would laugh over certain things. And then I had my caravan, heritage caravan people. We will do Zoom calls or video calls, and then we will chat. We will talk about unnecessary things.
Just to get your mind off. Yeah.
I had some few other friends. Kojakuto Boateng on CTFM was calling and checking up on me. The clinical psychologist, they gave me a clinical psychologist who was also calling and checking up on me. There was Dr. Amankra, Dr. Oju. They were all calling to check up on me. I think, and then I didn't really tell my family because I knew how they were going to be all. Yeah. So I didn't tell anybody like in my family except my sister who is in Australia. So she also kept calling me and checking up on me. So I think as they're calling and other people, even though I didn't tell them I was on quarantine, but because we were on lockdown, I think it was during the lockdown time. So the video calls and the Zoom and all other things also.
How important is that emotional support? Because you're a healthcare worker, usually you are the one providing this emotional support, and the script flipped where you now got to experience what the patient will go through. How important is it for loved ones to be there for people they are even suspecting might be in quarantine?
So first of all, let me just say that I'm a very lucky person. I'm blessed. I never get sick. I've never been dependent, so I've never been in this position until the COVID time. So during this COVID time, I got to know the importance of having people in your lives, people you can trust, people you can depend on, people that will just come to your aid at the least call. And I think it's very, very important. I also want to emphasize the importance of the clinical psychologist in the lives of patients or in the lives of other people who are going through trauma and unforeseen circumstances such as being in touch with the COVID. So kudos to my clinical psychologists, my team at Lekwan Hospital. They really helped me a lot, a lot.
How did the clinical psychologist help you change your attitude towards it from thinking it's a death sentence to knowing that life will still go on in spite of whatever the results will be?
So she will call me in the morning. She used to send me some videos and inspirational quotes, some inspirational videos, and then she kept telling me like I should consciously tell myself it is well. It's not a death sentence. People have gotten it and they've recovered. Even if I get it, they've got me. They will make sure I get well and get better and come back to work because they needed me more than I needed myself. So she kept calling me. She gave me a lot of encouraging words. Yeah. So
the whole incident now, you're back at work.
Yes, I am.
How does it feel like? And considering all that you went through, if you turn around and you look back, what are your thoughts? What comes to go through your mind?
I feel really, really blessed. Like I feel really grateful because this same person that I stayed with for almost 14 hours and I came out negative, people were with the same person like within 3 or 4 days, like within 3 or 4 hours, and they tested positive.
Wow.
Yes. So after staying home for like 21 days, I've never stayed home more than a week or 2 days in my entire career. So after being in the house for like 21 days continuously, not coming out to do anything, and then me being out with my colleagues at work and doing what I love doing best, I feel so blessed. I started work on Monday. When I went to work, I was so happy. Like, I could feel the joy of coming out, of coming out to the hospital or to even see people again. It's been a great joy.
All right, so we have your Dr. Emmanuel Amankra on the line. Dr. Emmanuel Amankra, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm doing well. Yourself?
We're well here, thank you. Well, help us to understand the moments that you found out that your nurse had tested or had come into contact. What was that? What were those moments like for you? And for as a decision maker, give us the process. Well, how did you feel and what happened?
Well, okay, so first of all, there's a general notion. We know that anyone at all can get exposed at a point. So I was in a meeting and she called me that she needs to see me and it's an emergency.
Okay.
So I quickly rushed. Then she told me everything, how she was exposed and everything. So I told her that she shouldn't worry. We have everything in place. So I activated our protocol where we put her in isolation, get her tested, and then involved the other stakeholders who would also help in managing her, and then we went ahead. So we kept on encouraging her, trying to let her know that she should relax. She's been exposed. Well, let's see what will happen. She may or may not develop the condition. But if she develops the condition, we are there to treat her, to manage her, make sure everything is fine. And then if she doesn't do it, we put measures in place. So basically, that's all we did. So for us, we involved, so her ward in charge, her immediate in charge she worked with was involved. And for us at Lekma Hospital, we involve the clinical psychologist in these kind of things. So we involve the clinical psychologist as well, who would be talking to her, encouraging her, as well as myself, the clinician, who would also be helping, making sure she's okay, if she has any symptoms or anything, to treat her as well.
All right, so as a medical officer at Lekma Hospital, how challenging is it, looking at the different people that will be coming through your hospital all the time, that knowing at any point in time, any of these people could be an infectious patient with COVID-19?
Okay, so for us, what we did was, I believe we were one of the first facilities to start talking about COVID. So right from January, we started having tutorials on COVID-19, doing trainings for staff, for doctors, for nurses, and generally the whole staff of the hospital. So our usual morning meetings, where we added a COVID time to it, where we had presentations on COVID-19 and did discussion on it. So we were, in a way, prepared for this. We have our protocols and everything ready, and we have our rules we put in place to help make sure there are more washing areas, no mask, no entry. We even started this before the wearing of masks became mandatory in Greater Accra region. So, and everyone, psychologically, we all know that any patient who comes in is a potential suspected case. So you make sure that we have our appropriate PPEs. We also make sure that we observe strict infection prevention protocols so that you prevent or minimize your risk of exposure in the hospital.
Okay, Doc, so you lead the COVID team at Lekma. How has the experience been for you, both ensuring that your team, they're in a great mental space and as well ensuring that your patients are fine?
Challenging. It's not
How do you prepare yourself to lead such a team?
So I remember the first time I had to go see a suspected case, as I'm wearing the whole canvas suit, the full PPE and everything. And I was thinking, okay, so would it be the one I get infected with or what? So, it gets a bit tiring and difficult at a point. But the clinical psychologist also calls and checks up on us as well in the team. So once in a while, she messaged that, oh, doctor, how are you doing? How's everything? Everything will be fine. Everything will be okay. Let's do what we know, what you've been trained to do. So it can get a bit difficult when you have to be making the decisions. You have to be breaking bad news, telling someone you know or you've tested that your test came back positive. It can be a bit difficult because, it's difficult. You know the person, you have to tell the person, oh, okay, this is positive. Or you met the person, build some sort of rapport because you check up on the person calls you when they have any issues. Then the results comes positive, and you have to call the person and tell the person that, well, you're COVID positive. But then I think it's in all, the main thing is the joy is when the person is okay. That's what we look out for, giving the best care, and I think that encourages us more.
But how do you maintain, the hope and faith you have in this new role you're in, where you have to be the rock for nurses like Effie, your colleagues and your patients? How do you even take a minute to say, let me also focus on my own mental health and how I'm doing?
Okay, so for me, our clinical psychologist checks up on me occasionally. We talk occasionally. And then self-motivation, and also I try as much as possible to encourage myself. Sometimes like this morning, I woke up, the news is we have over 3,000 confirmed cases. Now, today I'm running clinic. There may be a confirmed case or suspected case who may even come in. But then you remember all that we've been trained. So my training and everything put into practice will protect me. So I make sure that I do that. And then, well, like we always say, for God and for country. So we try and encourage ourselves. And I try and encourage the people I work with as well. My COVID team members, my staff, everyone I work with. So always try and encourage them that they should be very optimistic. And if you will tell you that I'm a very optimistic person.
We can tell.
So even on our ward, we have critical cases. Normally, we can have a lot of critical cases, a medical department, so we can have very critical cases, stroke, everything. I'll tell them they should relax. Let's do the best we can. And then let's see. Everything will work out fine. So I think self-motivation and also the support of our psychologists who once in a while takes up on me, and then my family as well, because almost every day they call me. It's been some time since I've been able to, join them fully as I would have previously.
Why?
So they call almost every day. So my mom is about 50, obviously, and hypertensive as well. So I wouldn't want, in case I'm exposed or infected, I wouldn't want to expose her as well, since she is a risk for severe or critical case. So for now, most of the time, I haven't been with them like I used to.
Wow.
So are you saying you've not gone home in a while?
Yes.
Wow. How challenging is that?
Oh, no. So previously, I used to just be at my place when I have to be in the hospital quite early, or I have a late shift or something. Then I go home. But now, because of this COVID, I stay more at my end without going home. But we talk, almost every day we talk on phone. They find out how I'm doing. Did I see any case? Am I okay? The usual family support.
Yeah.
So my brother too will call and everything, send messages, just to check up on me.
Wow. We're glad they're there to support you. Now, Effie, how does this entire experience solidify your commitment to your calling as a health worker? Because most people would have used this as an epiphany to run and find a new profession.
Well, so I signed up to be a nurse. I didn't sign up for the pandemic, but it is here. And as much as I wouldn't want to lose my family member or somebody, like I went through the emotion, so I'm also thinking about if it was another person going through the same emotion, how was the person going to feel like? And I have read stories about doctors and healthcare workers outside who are overwhelmed with this COVID issue so much that they commit suicide. And I keep telling myself, I went through all that emotion. Would I want another person to go through the same emotion? No, of course not. So I would want to do my best to help the immediate person who is sick or who is not well to get better, so the family can also enjoy.
Ghana is a place where we've not really paid much attention to mental health, and it's the need for it within our society generally. Is COVID-19 going to be the thing that is going to bring us to that space where now the clinical psychologist will become a part of life as normal?
Yeah.
In a place like America, they go and see the shrink all the time.
Yeah.
It's normal. What do you think?
I think that apart from the COVID being the reason why clinical psychology should be part of our daily life, there are people who are going through other emotions.
Yes.
There are people who are COVID has come to change a whole lot of life. It has changed our lives in so many different ways that we can't even imagine. Very early this year, we were all over the place. We went for the tour, we were touching all over, we were having fun, and then we came back in 3 weeks, and then they said you should be under lockdown. You don't get to see your family, you don't get to do the things that makes you happy. Like me, I used to go to the gym a lot. Now I can't even go to the gym, so I have to do my exercise in the house. I used to visit friends. Now I can't visit any friend. People used to come to me. Now I'm even afraid to let people into my space. You know, so the clinical psychologists, I think the aspects of the clinical psychologists being part of our lives should not even be just because of the COVID, but I think they should be available as when and whatever time we need them for any other situations.
Okay. Now, Doc, lastly, before you go, because we've run out of time, can you talk to us about the importance of staying optimistic and positive throughout? Because it seems as though Effie was beginning to show symptoms of stress and she thought she had COVID.
Okay, so I think that it's very important for our mental health. If you're not optimistic, trust me, you get depressed. If you went through the whole spectrum, where you start with shock, then you go into some form of depression, and then the whole depression turns into paranoia, then you start developing certain symptoms from that. And once you start experiencing those symptoms, you start thinking, well, you have the condition. Then your mind starts playing tricks and you're going to die. What's going to happen to you? But there was a time I remember I called her, she was like, Samantha, I think I have it. I'm having a temperature, I'm having a headache, I'm having this. I told her, relax, don't worry, everything will be okay. I don't think you have it. For now, let's wait for our test results. Then it would say that you have it. For now, be optimistic. Just wait and relax.
So we'll bring you back to talk to us about all of this. Is that okay? So that everyone at home will be rest assured that there's no need stressing out when you think you have COVID. And that might actually contribute to you showing the symptoms. Will that be fine?
Yes.
Thank
it's
you.
Actually very, very important. You have to remain calm because our mind is a powerful tool. Once you start panicking and thinking, trust me, you start developing symptoms.
Thank you so much,
it's
Doctor.
Very optimistic.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, so we will be speaking with Dr. Emmanuel Amankra, who's a medical officer at Lekma Hospital and also a lead member of the team there, COVID team.
And of course,
our nurse here,
Ifwa Chumwa Dansokisi.
It's time for you to go to work, right?
Yes.
All right.
But it's always a pleasure to have you. I can't wait for COVID to be over so I can hug you again.
I'm telling you,
Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.
Extra data, extra minutes, and extra unlimited calls. Not just that, even our extra data doesn't expire. You fill up, simply dial *111# to bundle now.
Airtel Tigo. Life is simple. There is no promise we cannot keep. There is no commitment we cannot honor. There is no delivery we cannot guarantee. There is only one Bethel Logistics Company Limited, a licensed international freight forwarding and clearing agent, a trusted global brand with an extensive network for the movement of air freight and are the trusted name for road freight into Western and Northern Africa. We are fully accredited by Ghana Customs and Excise. We cater for all your freight forwarding, customs clearing and forwarding, cross trades, inland transportation, internal cargo tracking systems, customer freight costing and consultancy, cold chain logistics management, logistics and warehousing, quality inspection, and much more. In Accra, Tema, and Takrady, we are always available to ensure easy movement of cargo countrywide. Call us on 0204 528 900 or 0244 707 859. Email info@bethellogistics.com. Locate us in Accra at North Ridge, adjacent Accra Girls High School, or in Tema at Community 4, or in Takrady on the second floor of the GCB building. Website bethellogistics.com. Bethlog, experts in shipping logistics.
All right, welcome back. It's time for us to get into the news review. I'm going to go through the headlines of the dailies that we have today. Guests who are already seated, and then we'll have a great conversation this morning. So on the front page of the daily graphic, we have GS promotes 18,475 teachers after maiden promotion test. More young people contracting COVID-19 in Ashanti region. Zoom lion to fumigate police facilities. Ekropon kingmakers fined 48,576 Ghana cedis. Boy, 2 years old, dies in a Premdo explosion. Sad story there. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times, we have 70,000 free masks for Accra to enable residents comply with mandatory mask wearing directive. Asante Hene marks 70th birthday anniversary. You say congratulations to him there. Police Zoom Lion launch fumigation of police facilities nationwide. On the front page of the New Crusading Guide, NDC runs from Peace FM, hails brickbats at Sefakai and Alote Jacobs. 4 Ekwapem chiefs sentenced for defying ban on public gatherings. COVID-19, Chinese nationals donate to orphanage. Disinfection saga at KIA. Ghana Airports Company Limited fights back. Says it has no contract with LCB. On the front page of the Chronicle, wedded wife plots with boyfriend to kill husband. Assassin mistakenly calls police commander for the deal. Wow. Police reopen probe into killing of Tamale cop. Police to recall recruits after disinfection exercise. MPP donates food, cash to Sharubutu in Muslims. Utumfo is a national asset, says Baumia. On the front page of the Business Finder, vegetables, fruits, businesses lose over $1 million due to impact of COVID-19. Distributors question increase in prices of steel products. EcoBank, GCB, others post impressive results. On the Daily Statesman, we have rush to show creativity. GSA demands COVID-19 innovations meet standards. NDC suspends Alote Jacobs over anti-party conduct. Koku Anidoho, the next target. MPP donates to Chief Imam to support Ramadan fast. On the ABC News, we have COVID-19 This is from the president. Kokofu confirmed assault on delegate. COVID-19 pandemic. Adhere to safety protocols. General Mosquito sweats over Mahama running mate short list. All right, let's do some online stories. And we have on citynewsroom.com, Ghana can't use Madagascar's alleged COVID-19 cure without evidence of efficacy, says the FDA. NDC's criticisms of energy sector out of unconscious incompetence, says Gideon Boakum. I'm not contesting Akufo-Addo in election. This is Isaac Osei, election 2020. Ghana's COVID-19 case count rises to 3,091 as Bono region records first case. Adabraka police station accused officer of causing death of resident. We will clamp down on persons who flout COVID-19 prevention protocols. This is from the police. And on City Business News, we have Advertisers Association of Ghana laments impact of COVID-19 on members. WAPCO to undertake 10-hour shutdown of Tema site. Hoteliers unsure of complete shutdown as COVID-19 slows business. And we are considering support for hard-hit hospitality sector, says Akufo-Addo. And we have, so for more news, visit citynewsroom.com, and for more business news, visit citybusinessnews.com. All right, so remember that the show is interactive, and kindly use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear what you're thinking. Also, the WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. You can send us messages there and we will read them as they come in. All right, so today we want to begin the conversation around the coronavirus pandemic. The Ghana's case count has gone up to 3,091. We will also discuss the energy sector. The minority and government are clashing over who has the better record in terms of crisis management. It's going to be an interesting conversation there. So let me introduce my guest to you. I have seated on my left Felix Kwachi Ofusu, who is the NDC parliamentary candidate for Abura Asebu Kwamankese. He's also a former deputy communications minister. Good morning.
Good
Felix,
morning.
how are you?
I'm great. You?
I'm well, thank you.
All right.
How are you feeling in these times?
Well, I mean, COVID has disrupted our lives. There can be no doubt about it. But I guess that it is a small price to pay for wanting to stay alive and ensuring that we get back on track. So, like everybody else, it's affected me, but one cannot complain.
All right. Okay. My other guest is also seated, Andrew Mesa. He is the MP of 2nd D. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning. I like when you cut it short. And not add all the middle names. Yeah.
So how are things with you?
I cannot but associate myself with the sentiments that have been expressed by my good friend Felix.
Okay.
These are not normal times. Our new normal is wearing masks.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a small price to pay to remain among the living post-COVID. And so it's important that our viewers, the people of Ghana, abide by the guidelines that have been issued by the Ghana Health Service. stay at home by all means if you don't have any business to do in town. But if you have to, please wear a mask. Keep washing your hands, cough within your elbows, and sanitize as much as possible, so that at least, and of course, appropriate social distancing protocols. And it's exciting that you guys are implementing it effectively in your studios.
We're doing what we can.
So that at least as many people as can possibly, be prevented from contracting the disease are as it were, protected from same.
All right, let's jump into the first story. I'm going to read it from citynewsroom.com. Ghana's COVID-19 case count rises to 3,091 as Bono region records first case. Ghana's COVID-19 case count has risen to 3,091. This comes after 372 new cases were recorded from various parts of the country. The Bono region has also become the 13th out of the country's 16 regions to record a case of the virus. The case in the Bono region was detected in the Jama North district. These developments were contained in the latest update on the Ghana Health Service website today, 7th May 2020. According to the Ghana Health Service, a total of 137,924 tests have been done so far. The update also added that the number of recovered persons has increased to 303 from the previous 294, while the death count remains at 18. Regional breakdown of the numbers. It says here, Greater Accra is 2,579. Ashanti region has 165, Eastern has 95, Western North has 56, Central region has 50, Western region has 32, Volta region has 30, Upper East region has 26, Uti has 23, Upper West has 19, Northern has 13, Northeast has 2, Bono has 1, and Savannah, Ahafo, and Bono East are all still at 0. All right. Let me start with you, Andrew. The last information ministry presser, there were suggestions that we had hit or we were approaching the top of our curve. Okay, and so we should be expecting, more positive results moving forward. It looks interesting because the last jump we had to on the last case count was 550, in addition. This time it seems to have dropped to 372. Do you see that as a sign in that direction that we are probably heading to the peak, our plateau, or it's too early to make that call?
Well, good morning to our cherished viewers. I hope that we're getting to our plateau, or that the figures as was released yesterday is a sign, a confirmation that indeed we have hit our plateau and potentially commencing a decline. Unfortunately, I don't have competencies in that direction, except to say that to the extent that this disease is with us, if we do not take the appropriate precautions, we may not be able to widen, or if you like, flatten the curve. And so it's important that we all do what it is that we can, abide by the protocols that have been outlined for all of us, so that at least we can suppress the spread of the virus. 134,000 or so tests, 3,000 positive. Clearly tells us, according to the experts, that we have control, if you like, over the rate of spread of the disease. And I only hope and pray that we are able to control, bring it within our if you like, within our grasp, so that we can deal with it. And thankfully, the mortality rate is not as high.
Yeah.
You know, and many of the people who are tested positive are well, and so the expectation will be that they will recover quickly, so that if the disease is not increasingly spread, you know, then we can get some space to get back to normal lives, you know.
Okay, let me ask Felix what you make of the figure so far.
Well, it was said at the time that the president lifted the lockdown that we had control of it. Indeed, there were suggestions that the case count was going to go down, and now we probably may have only a few hundred more cases to contend with. But since the lockdown, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers appear to have tripled. I think at the time of the lockdown, there were about 1,034 or so.
Something like that.
Now we are in the realm of 3,000, which means that the numbers have tripled. So you at least want to question whether or not the signs that the president says informed the lift on the lockdown was appropriate, and that those who, I mean, purported to have worked on that science really did a good job. You also have to question whether or not we are safer now than we were at the beginning of the whole enterprise. Because if at the beginning of this enterprise we were able to lock down when we had barely 130 cases or so, and now we are looking at 3,041 cases, then it means that there is some disconnect between what you are being told and the reality on the ground. You made a point about the lower number of positive cases now. You spoke about 550 initially, and now 372. Yeah. That is dependent on, that is dependent on the number of samples that were tested this time around. So it's a straightforward mathematical, analysis. If it is the case that the number of samples tested this time are more than what was tested previously, and yet the numbers are lower, then you can say that we are making some progress. But if the reverse is the case, then there's some difficulty there. I think that at this stage, I would like to have a handle on exactly what strategy we are using. Perhaps indeed the opposition leader in the United Kingdom has called on the government to publish its strategy document, so that everybody is clear what specific strategy informs government's approach to dealing with this particular pandemic. I think that is a call that we may have to replicate here. That way, we will all be on the same page, and we'll be clear in our minds what exactly we are looking at. Because it is not clear to me what the strategy is really. We are relying only on what officialdom is telling us. Sometimes the accounts are a bit inconsistent. Yesterday or so, the Ghana Health Service announced that we had reached peak numbers. Yeah. No sooner had that announcement come than a statistician, a biomedical statistician at the University of Ghana, who I would assume has competency in the field, also indicated that he had serious difficulties with that proclamation, because his analysis does not show that we have reached peak period yet. And the increasing numbers will suggest that. I think there's a need for some confluence between the various views held by health professionals and experts on this matter, so that we are very clear in our minds where we are going. Yesterday, I heard of a news report from the Western North region, where they, for instance, speak about the non-availability of fuel to fuel vehicles that are engaged in contact tracing, and they say this is hampering their ability to perform that assignment. I have also seen communication from National Security Secretariat to the Catholic Secretariat, asking them to release some of their guest houses around the country for them to be used as isolation centers. Now, if this late in the day, we are now approaching religious bodies to release their guest houses and other facilities to serve as isolation centers, that means that we have not done the sort of preparations. I would have thought that 6-7 weeks into the management of this crisis, we will have a handle on all these things, that we will not at this juncture be looking for isolation centers. So, in a nutshell, there are a lot of defects and deficiencies in the way that this thing has been handled. We are all willing to cooperate with government in the spirit of national unity to ensure that we overcome the disease, because as we have all agreed on this panel, it is hampering our normal lives, and the earlier we got it out of the way so that life returns to normalcy, the better for all of us. But in doing so, there's a need for consistency, there's a need for candor, there's a need for accuracy. And the decisions that are taken around this matter must be informed by the best interest of the country and not considerations that appear political or considerations that appear parochial. Once we get that right, there will be no difficulty controlling. I think that if there is anything that binds all of us at this moment, we recognize that this is a threat. This can cause severe damage. Already it has ravaged our economy, and the numbers show clearly that we are in trouble. So the earlier we curtail it, the better. But we are not going to achieve that if the information is dodgy, if the information is scanty, and if there is some opacity in the way that these things are done. So I call for greater transparency, and I think that the strategy informing this should be made public. We all should see what our government is doing.
The strategy that has been said maybe a few times that I've heard by the information minister is testing, tracing, testing, and treatment, and that's the broad strategy that's being used.
Yeah, but you see, that is just sloganeering. You see,
really?
Yeah, that's sloganeering.
But it makes sense.
Well, I'm saying that it is sloganeering. You see, you can put any number of words. You see, you can put any number of words together.
Testing them.
You see, you can put any number of words together.
And then you treat those who have been infected.
No problem. I'm saying that you can put any number of words together to form a slogan. It is catchy. It appears with the want of better expression, for the want of better expression, sensible on the surface. But it takes more than sloganeering to overcome this. What I'm calling for is the publication of the strategy document, because I would like to imagine that at this stage there's a national response plan on how to deal with this. There's a strategy that backs it, that would have been drawn up by people with knowledge about this. Share it. I don't think that it has any serious national security implications, for which reason it should be hidden. If you share it, then we see whether the sloganeering is actually matching the plans that are in place and what is happening. So I'm not sure that the 3 T's, the slogan that you just recited, is convincing enough in terms of assuaging the fears of people who may be doubtful about what is happening. Otherwise,
let me find out
I have resolved that I will abide by the admonition by His Excellency the President not to politicize this COVID-19. And our friends in NDC can engage in that if that's what they wish. Tracing, testing, and treating. It's not unique to Ghana. That's what everybody else is doing. If you go to the United States, you go to UK, you go to Italy, Spain, and everywhere that they are confronted with this disease, it's exactly the same thing. You ought to test, you ought to trace the contacts, and then treat them. So how does that amount to sloganeering if Ghana says that we are doing what is international best practice? But of course, our friends, I guess that they will find fault with everything that government does. I think that we are where we are. The policies that are being rolled out, the guidelines that are being rolled out, of course, asking for more transparency.
Yeah,
it's a legitimate call, and of course, that will be dependent on whether your suspicion, if you like, that government is not being transparent is real. But if all the information is being put out, all the engagements are being carried out, the Ministry of Information, together with the Ghana Health Service, holds at least twice weekly briefing. It provides adequate information to the people of Ghana.
Yeah.
If you think that that is not sufficient and you want more, tell us what you want. Because as far as I'm concerned, what does anybody gain in hiding information about COVID-19? It's with us. We are not alone. In excess of 180 countries across the world has been impacted by this disease. So to what end would government hide information from anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, the strategy that government of Ghana is adopting is not different from what anybody else is doing. So, well, they can choose to play whatever.
Ours to suit us.
No, of course, because it's not a one size fits all. But the fundamental principle is that you ought to test, you ought to trace the contacts, and then you provide adequate treatment. You see,
maybe I guess, for example, I guess what he's trying to say is that if you say, let's say treatment, for example, what's the treatment protocol? Do we know that it should be in a document somewhere so that we're saying, okay, the people who have who have been found positive, we're putting them on a certain cocktail of certain combination of drugs or whatever.
I ask myself, what's really the value of that information to me? I'm not a health expert.
Yeah, but
I'm not a doctor. So the question is, do our health institutions that are handling COVID, do they have treatment protocols? If they don't, then your question will be legitimate. But if they do, if the relevant institution has the relevant information and are complying with that, telling the people of Ghana that when you are infected with COVID, we will give you azithromycin or remdesivir, or the new thing that remdesivir.
Yeah.
Really, what's the value to anybody?
I think. Well, I for one would like to know.
Well, I'm asking, what's the value of that information to me? Knowing that when I get contracted with COVID, I'll be administered with a certain drug.
I guess you don't.
You get what I mean? No. Yeah. So the point really is this: that is the government of Ghana doing the right? And I hear him say that he was surprised that they are now asking for Catholic Secretariat to release some guest houses, for isolation purposes. Question is, do we already have isolation centers?
Yes.
Okay. Are they sufficient to meet the needs of the country?
I mean,
of course. So clearly, if you have 10 centers, but the numbers have gotten to such a situation where you require more, wouldn't you ask for it? Would you prepare 1,000 centers in anticipation? We've been told that you mean. Everybody, this disease is said that a pandemic is always ahead of you. So you can only work to catch up.
All right.
Okay, so let it not be said that government is not prepared. Some expectation that you have have not been met.
Okay.
And all that. I don't think that it serves anybody's purpose at all.
Right. Okay. Well,
if I may have a...
Yeah, I'll let you react after the break.
Go for a break, all right.
All right, so let's take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's here, the Express Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay. Payments simplified.
Welcome back, and remember that the hashtag is Breakfast Daily, and the number to WhatsApp us on is 0550-585832. Kindly use +233 if you're outside Ghana for us to hear what you're thinking. Just before we went for the break, Honorable Felix Kwache Ofosu wanted to make have a response to what Honorable Mesa had said. So.
Yeah, again, Honorable Mesa accused me of politicizing the discussion, and I'm not sure exactly what that means. You see, the scrutiny of government does not stop in times of crisis. Indeed, it is in times of crisis that the scrutiny ought to be intensified, so that people do not take advantage of the existence of the crisis to act in ways that undermine the national interest or in ways that seek to hide some of their conduct from the public view. So the mere fact that questions are asked in the midst of a crisis does not mean that it is being politicized. The role of the opposition is to hold government's feet to the fire of accountability, and it is an eternal exercise. It never stops. Even if there's an earthquake today, the response to it and its management is subject to scrutiny. And I would expect them to do that when they are in opposition. And I'm sure they did it when we were in opposition. So if they are going to bastardize every discussion of this matter and pigeonhole anybody who raises questions about the management of this situation as politicizing it, I don't think that it helps the discourse very much. They should be receptive to openness.
I sat here and admitted
if you let me land,
that asking for transparency is legitimate.
Of course, I will ask for the publication of the strategy document, because in my view, the sloganeering is not enough. You can't recite 3 T's and think that you've responded to what he himself admits is a legitimate request for information.
But his point is that the strategy is there.
No,
and that
yes, so it is there. Just make it public. You are a newsman. I'm sure you would be happy to have it, to analyze it and assess whether, when compared to international best practice, we are even up to scratch. Okay. So when I talk about scrutiny, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Again, I'm not asking to be told what injections are given COVID-19 patients or what drugs are given them. That is a minor detail that I do not need. What I want to know is that going forward, what is the outlook? What does government intend to do when we get to certain benchmarks? What can be learned from what has happened so far? And what is government's thinking on this whole thing and its response? That will be contained. If that document does not exist, then it will be a grave omission. Perhaps then they ought to admit that they have lagged behind. But if it exists, I don't see why it should not be published. The final point also is that, you see, you can be excused in the initial stages of the outbreak. Of course, some may say that global pandemics are not new. So you should have had it at the back of your mind that these things can happen. So you should have held yourself in readiness. Some can also say that your response was even a bit too late. Because indeed, before the disease got to Africa, we had a 67-day window. That's almost 2.5 months to prepare. We know that this pandemic would have been imported. Indeed, the first 2 cases in Ghana were imported cases according to government's own information. So it means that people brought it from outside. It is possible to stop people with the pandemic from coming to Ghana, but it came. So you can criticize government that perhaps if we had acted earlier, given the window of opportunity that we had, we may not have recorded the case at all. It is a valid criticism. If you overlook that, you can say that, okay, in the first 2-3 weeks of this pandemic, it took you by surprise. So perhaps it will take you some time to get your acts together and then be able to implement the right policies and measures to bring it under control.
Which was one of the reasons for the lockdown.
Yes, but if 6-7 weeks into the outbreak, we are now going around looking for isolation centers, it speaks to a certain lack. I just spoke to you about the lack of logistics in the northern
but what you were saying is that,
region.
What you're saying is that as the numbers go up,
you don't wait for the numbers to go up. It is a pandemic. So you do your worst case scenarios, you do your analysis, you do your projections, and make preparation in readiness for that.
Okay.
What if today the Catholic guest classes are encumbered for any other reason? You have to go to the next, agency to seek help from them. What if they don't have the means to assist you? So you'll be going around shopping for isolation centers at a time when we are in the midst of the pandemic and cases are rising. So I am criticizing what I believe to be a slower response than should have been the case.
All right, okay.
Whilst we are willing to overlook the initial hiccups, I don't think that a month and a half into the crisis, we should be doing some of the things we are doing. So when I call for a publication of the strategy, I just want to see what it is that we are dealing with, whether or not we are in a position to contain this when it gets to a certain extent. It is not politicization at all.
All right, fair enough.
If you categorize testing, tracing, and treating, which is global, as sloganeering, is that scrutiny?
No, he says that.
I'm asking you a question.
No, he says that without a strategy document, it's sloganeering.
What strategy document?
Right.
Ghana. Across Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Apart from South Africa, which other country has tested more?
Yeah.
Is that sloganeering?
Okay. So you're saying that.
So if they tell you that you are doing politics, look, you can ask legitimate questions. And I've said here that look, yes, more transparency if indeed some information is being hidden from the people of Ghana which you cannot prove. Making a call for more information is legitimate.
Yeah. Okay.
But to categorize what everybody else is doing in the world, that Ghana is doing, that Ghana is sloganeering. What are you? You are not doing testing. But when I asked for a strategy document, you recited the treaty. I said that is sloganeering. Okay. The thing that convinces me is a document in which this is codified.
I think we've all understood what.
That's all.
We've all understood that. All right. So a lot of you are sending us messages already. Let me just quickly read a few of them. And thank you. I want to say thank you very much for sending the messages. A.U. Farouk from Tamale North says, good morning. Now the rising cases of COVID-19 is a cause to worry. Government must enforce all measures to protect people from contracting it even more so. Hashtag Breakfast Daily. Citizen Francis says, when you have a leader who cares about the next generation more than elections, everything humanly possible is done to secure the future of the people. Ghana has such a visionary leader. All right. Fusaini Sani from Samankasi says, good morning, host and your panelists. Host, we are where we are because the government has added lies and is inept in fighting COVID-19. So most people don't take the information from the government seriously. And of course, he goes on to say here, and they are also being selective in the prosecuting of people who disobey the rules of social distancing. All right. Good morning, City TV. Thank you for the good work you're doing. I would like to say that we have to stop putting politics on this COVID-19 and let's come together as one and fight the invisible enemy. Thank you for that message, Lazarus from Tamale. All right, let me do one more. Thank you for wearing face mask even in the studio. It's the right way to go. Congratulations. Thank you very much for that. We will do the next topic real quick. Let me just read the story for you. It's about the energy sector and the fact that the government is about the NDC, MPP bashing each other about who is more competent at handling crisis. I'll quickly read a couple of stories here for you and then I'll engage my guests. NDC's criticisms, this is on citynewsroom.com. NDC's criticisms of energy sector out of unconscious incompetence. This is Gideon Boako. He says, the office of the Vice President has rejected claims that after assuming office in 2017, the current government has jeopardized the country's energy sector. There have been counter accusations from the minority after the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, had made a comparative analysis of the government's coronavirus efforts and former President John Dramani Mahama's handling of the power crisis during his era. The latest to join the raging debate is the ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, Adam Mutawakilo, who challenged the MPP administration to enumerate the gains it has made in the energy sector so far. But the spokesman for the Vice President, Dr. Gideon Boako, believes the assumptions made by the opposition are false, insisting that the arguments cannot in any way be justified. The Vice President spoke to bring clarity on the matters raised by Mr. Mahama and talked about the politicization efforts by Mr. Mahama and the NDC to derail the efforts that the government has been making. All right, so let me come to you and start with you on this one, Felix. Won't you give the government a break?
They deserve no break. Indeed, they deserve to be booted out at the earliest opportunity.
Why?
I
think they've done quite a stellar job so far.
what's Stella Global talking about? We just discussed the serious shortfalls. Look, it is the case that because of the very nature of the pandemic, we in the opposition have learned support. Indeed, our leader has gone out of his way to spend money from his own resources to assist the government efforts. At a time when there was an acute shortage of PPEs, he went out there, looked for what he could gather, and sent it to various hospitals across the country. When government locked down, and there was a huge outcry because people were starving and there were shortages and all that, he offered to help feed 20,000 households. So we have been supportive of government, but it does not mean that they have been supportive.
Yeah.
Now the vice president out of the blue.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Okay. So, Andrew, there's a part I want you to react to on which he just said something here, that basically, I am saying that government seems to have done a stellar job so far. His whole position is that if you are arguing about the quality of work that has been delivered so far, he feels that it is nowhere near as good as it should be.
I don't know what the plan is. I barely made my...
No, I'll come back to you. Okay. I'll come back to you. Yeah. So I want you your comment on this particular aspect here, where in the part I was reading here, where the president, the vice president, was saying that the former president was making unnecessary attacks and accusations at the government. I think that President Mahama had made a fair amount of comment. I want to just make a quick comment on that before I go back to him.
But of course, I mean, what the vice president said was right. Only a week and a half ago, Mr. Mahama, during his Facebook encounters, made some assertions that clearly, one, were false, because he said that Ghana claims to have built a robust economy, and that countries in Africa who were essentially in a worse situation than us have not even gone to the IMF to seek relief. And he cited Ivory Coast and Rwanda. It turns out that, contrary to his assertion, Ivory Coast and Rwanda had actually gone to the IMF to seek relief.
Okay.
So he peddled an untruth.
Okay, fair enough. I needed you to...
Very well. You let him make his point, and I'll respond. Because
now you heard what you said.
Oh, I'll deal with it. I mean, it's a small matter, really. Look, the vice president, he's gained notoriety for fabricating theories and foisting it on the people of Ghana and abusing the confidence that people would normally have in him.
Fabricating theories?
I will explain it to you. What did he seek to do that day? By comparing a power crisis to a health pandemic. And I have had occasion to say somewhere before that it is akin to inviting me to take part in a beauty contest with a woman. It is illogical, and with the greatest respect to him, does not make sense. Look, a power crisis is a power crisis.
Yes. Are they not both crisis management situations?
So in effect, the vice president is telling me that when you have headache, he takes the same medication as you would take when you have a stomach upset. I mean, who does that? That's why I'm saying that he was fabricating a theory. That's what he was doing. Let me explain something to you. A power crisis is not the same as a health crisis, a global pandemic. For that reason, the responses to both are not the same. When you have a power crisis, there's either a shortfall in generation capacity or some difficulty. So the priority is to ensure that you bridge that gap. Whatever resources you have will be pumped into bridging the gap, like President Mahama did, ramping up generation capacity from a little over 2,800 to over 4,000. Today, the MPP bizarrely accuses him of providing more power than we needed. You understand me? It is true that businesses slow down, but production and economic activity does not halt. People still go to work, because what happens is that you have light today, you may not have it tomorrow. The day you have light, you work. The day you don't have it, you don't work. But other forms of economic activity go on. In a global pandemic, because of the risk to our health and the potential for death, government itself asks citizens to stay at home. Now, when you ask citizens to stay at home, it curtails economic activity. That immediately imposes severe hardship, for which reason you are required, or better still forced, to implement some measures so that the very directive you've given for people to stay at home will be complied with. If you don't do that, people will storm out of their houses in search for food.
So the responses to a health crisis cannot be the same as a response to a power crisis. That's why I'm saying that there was no basis for comparison. He did that in keeping with a certain posture of his to fabricate theories, things that are illogical. They simply do not make sense. And he says them and sends everybody on a wild goose chase. Why does anybody compare a power crisis to a health pandemic? Why? During the energy crisis, did anybody wear a nose mask? Was there social distancing? Were we asked to use hand sanitizers? Were isolation centers set up? Was the airport in Ghana locked up or closed down? Were our borders closed down? So on what basis are you comparing the two? Again, Honorable Mensah has a difficulty with the former president's assertion that our economy is in shambles. Indeed, the vice president also disputes that. You see, it is not the former president speaking. The government's own account in their interaction with the IMF shows that this our economy is in shambles. When you want to assess the health of an economy, you use indicators. Incidentally, the vice president called for data, except that he didn't use data. And when he uses data, what he does essentially is to tell you, he behaves like a maths professor who tells you that I'm a professor of maths. So when I say 1 + 1 is 3, it is true. Even when we all know that 1 + 1 is 2. That's why I spoke about he fabricating theories. Now, one of the things you use is the growth rate, the rate at which your economy is growing, right? When we had DIMSO, our economy grew in 2016 by 3.6%. Government's own analysis, and it's in the document that the IMF has published on their website, shows that this economy will grow by 1.5%. How can you tell me that an economy growing at 1.5% is robust? It is in shambles. It is on the verge of collapse. Indeed, there are some projections that show that we may even grow by -1%.
Okay, so
just a minute. Just a minute.
I want to say something here so that you can answer, respond to that. The fact that an economy is not growing, does it make it a shambolic economy?
Why? Did the vice president himself say that they inherited an economy that was in shambolic state? We grew at 3.6%.
Okay.
If you assess him by his own standards,
okay,
what should we say? Again, it is not just that. Our budget deficit, it will grow by 9.5%. It means that we will spend far more than we will get. Our balance of payments position is so weak that they have gone to beg the IMF for a rapid credit facility. You know what that means? It means that if that money had not come last week, this economy would have collapsed. And when you go for balance of payment support, it simply means that your reserves have dwindled. You don't have import cover. The other thing that you need to look out for is the debt to GDP ratio. When they came to power in 2016, the debt to GDP ratio was 55.6%. The projection is that it will go to 70% this year. And when you go to 70%, you are a highly indebted poor country. The rapid credit facility went
so are we going back to HIPIC?
Absolutely. That is what the projections... Yes. That is what the projections show. So there is not a single indicator that would be better than 2016. And so you don't need... And indeed, in their own document, they say that if the IMF does not give them that 1 billion, this economy will recover from this situation. I ask you, if you are not ill, do you recover? If the economy was not in shambolic state, would we need to recover? Again, when this pandemic struck, all the measures that they've taken, how did they take it? They went into the stabilization fund and check the name, stabilization fund. It was a fund created to stabilize the economy at a time when there's instability. So if the economy was stable and was doing well, why would they need to go into the stabilization fund? Just to buy food for people who were under lockdown, they have to go into the stabilization fund to take over $200 million. By the way, the NDC left almost $200 million in that fund. Then they went to the World Bank for $100 million. $100 million is less than it's about 500 million Ghana cedis. Which country with a robust economy goes to the World Bank for $100 million? In any event, when we had $100 million, we gave the Electoral Commission to compile a new register, 400 million Ghana cedis and above. And then, to cap it, they went to the IMF for balance of payment support. And you see, balance of payment support is the clearest indication that your economy is in shambles. So all the figures, all the data that is used to assess the health of the economy for 2020 shows that this economy is in deep distress and it is in shambles. Now, it runs contrary to the government's own narrative that the economy is robust. If the economy is robust, how do you run to the IMF with just 3 to 4 weeks of COVID-19? Indeed, he made the point about other countries going to the IMF. The point that the former president made is that it is not every country that has gone to the IMF. There are 54 countries in Africa. 24 of them have gone to the IMF. The other 30 have not gone, even though they are affected also by COVID-19. It means that they have relatively better economies. The US, Germany, and the UK have not gone to the IMF because they have economies that can withstand the shocks that COVID-19 brings. Even if it lowers their productivity, it lowers their output a bit. But they have not gone cup in hand. Those are the economies that can see.
Okay.
They are robust. But this our vice president, first of all, makes the most bizarre, illogical comparison between two different issues, a power crisis and a health pandemic. And then, in spite of available evidence that this economy is in shambles, denies it and says that the economy is strong. Okay. The economy of 2020 will be the worst in 40 years. And the facts show.
Right. The economy of 2020 is going to be the worst in 40 years. Is that
as a result of
your handling of the crisis? That's what he seems to suggest.
Oh, but is it factual?
I don't know. You respond to him.
Oh, sir, the thing you have to assess the performance of a government.
It's his opinion of the situation.
You see, it's surprising. You know, any time that Mr. Mahama, the former president, whom I hold in high esteem, makes any comments that elicits a response from the vice president with insults, and they can choose whichever way that they will respond to the vice president. Well, I leave it to the good people of this country to determine. Look, what did the vice president say? He has a simple question. That we as a country, we've been saddled with some crisis in the past, and we are saddled with some crisis today. What was the response of government to ameliorate the difficulty that Ghanaians were saddled with then and now? Simple. So tell us that, look, when you were in government, that you alleged that the power crisis was as a result of some force majeure, some accident, some ship that had damaged the pipeline in Togo, and so Ghana was not getting sufficient gas from Nigeria to power our power plants. Our response to that was A, B, C, D, E. Then we can have a conversation. But why the insult?
About who has insulted?
I'm not sure where the insult
is. Illogical and all sorts of.
You see, if you say something is not logical, and I point it out, how is that an insult? How is that an insult? Illogical means it does not make sense.
The statement that I made here, that represents exactly what the vice president said. How is this logical?
Because, anyway, I don't want to.
How? He's not comparing the crisis.
No.
He's not.
He's not.
He's comparing your response.
But I'm saying that the responses are not the same. Because they are not two. The two crises are not the same. How do you compare
how did your response then?
Because the response,
the needs of the Ghanaian who was suffering.
I'm saying that you count a response.
You see,
let him talk.
That's what I'm saying. It's illogical. You have a power crisis. We told them, and we repeat today, that was financial.
But that is false. That you know it.
How is it false?
It is false because it was not financial as you claim.
What was it?
Well, if you give me the time, I'll show you.
It was not generational capacity.
That is false.
It was not. Because at the time that President Kufuor was leaving power, we had at least 1,900.
Okay.
Bon. Bui, Osono, which is now Senate, were all on stream. Okay. Now, our peak demand at the time was 1,800 and change. Except that we didn't have a reserve. But President Kufuor had put in the emergency power and the T3 in Takrady and all that, ramping it up to about 2,400. Today, our peak demand is 2,300. So,
how was our Dumsor crisis in 2012, 13, 14 generational capacity? You yourselves, your party, you've told us that it was as a result of the damage to the pipeline in Togo. That was why we're suffering from Dumsor. Now, I ask, the gas, what is it? It's fuel that you needed to power your plants. That has stopped. There were alternatives. LCO, light crude oil. Almost all our power plants have multiple fuel sources. You didn't have the resources to buy light crude to power the plants. Simple.
But that is false. It's not
But that's
true.
exactly what happened.
But it's not true. You know.
But if you compare the
It's not
capacity
true.
that we had and what it is that we needed, it doesn't make sense for you to tell me that our Dumsor crisis was generational. It doesn't make sense at all. But let's look at their response. They accumulated in excess of 2,000 megawatts to increase our capacity to 5,000. When all we need as of today is 2,300. Was it rational?
Was there anything wrong with it, though? You create capacity.
Such that today,
you grow into.
but we didn't have it. We didn't have a generational problem from the facts available.
But that is not true.
What do you mean by that's not true? What's our peak demand today?
Again. Okay, when you finish our
What's our peak demand?
I hope that there's time for me
No,
to define this.
actually, we are running out
But
of
it's
time.
completely false.
We ran
You
out of time.
see, so your response, merchants of war, was to profit from war.
Oh, really?
That's your,
Exactly, that was your response.
That's-
The biggest
your
heist-
suggestion.
That was your response.
The biggest cases of profiteering have come in PDS.
You see?
PDS.
Look,
the
you can
American
make
basic
all
deal.
your all the false allegations that you want. These are matters of fact.
What matters of fact? PDS what happened?
What happened to PDS?
Profiteering was a state asset not handed over to people who
happened?
could
Who
not
started the
manage
process?
it. Is that what we said?
Who started
Did
the
we give it
process
to
of divesting
PDS?
that asset?
Did we give it to
We ran out of
PDS?
time, so-
No, we gave it to
Did you
PDS.
not shortlist PDS?
All right, so
Did you not shortlist PDS
viewers,
in your era?
thank you very much
Did you
for.
not shortlist them? Why
Thank
did
you very much for watching this segment of the show. Let me just quickly read one more message here. There's a message. What can most of these ridiculous comparisons that are happening is to what the worst of the comparisons is to compare COVID-19 with Dumsor. I personally think it's an attempt to divert our attention from other scandals involving GCNet, Unipass, and so on. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. There are so many messages coming in. We can't read all of them. Thank you very much for watching this segment. So I want to say thank you to Honorable Andrew Mensah, who is the MP of 2nd B, and also to Felix Kwachi Ofosu. Now, exciting conversations are always like that. So we'll come back and continue the show. Don't go anywhere.
There is nothing as hard as a diamond. For buildings with superior strength that withstand all weather conditions, Diamond Cement should be your preferred choice. Locate Diamond Cement nationwide with factories in Aflao, Takrady, and Bupe. Diamond Cement, as hard as a diamond.
It's here, the Express Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. Express Pay. Payment simplified.
On Footprints this weekend, a man who has 34 years working experience in foreign service as a career diplomat, Ambassador D.K. Osei, walks us through his life.
Now, something happened under President Kufuor.
Right.
The removal of Haruna Isiku as party chairman.
Right.
How did that happen?
I was not involved in it.
But you saw.
I saw it.
You experienced.
I left it for the chief of staff to manage.
But what are your thoughts?
You see, for a secretary to the president to perform efficiently, he should not get in the way of the politicians.
Okay.
And he should not be seen to be playing a political role, which is not his role. So Haruna was my friend from Buziat's time, because he used to visit, was my uncle, let me put this way, Gage Mensah, at home. So I saw him come and see the president. But as much as possible, when the president was having political meetings, I did not sit in.
Oh, okay.
I had too much work to do.
All right.
And he
so you're always busy.
Yeah, and he didn't expect me to follow political matters. And I consciously also stayed away.
What do you think about the current chief of staff?
Frema.
Yes.
Oh, Frema is family. So you want me
so
to...
So you are not thinking about her?
You know, Frema and I are family. So.
Okay, so you can't...
No, but I mean, I worked with her in government. She was deputy minister.
No, as a chief of staff.
You know, I'm not close enough.
Okay.
And I consciously stay away.
That's fair.
That's fair. I don't want to, they are my friends who are in government. Yeah. I don't want to give them a hard time.
No,
so
that's fair.
I stay away.
But they have some two deputies who are young boys. I don't know whether they had work experience. Yes, and Abu Jinapo.
That's the choice of the president.
No, I know. I mean, I'm just saying.
But you know, the job requires a lot of experience, a lot of sense of responsibility, and a sense of urgency, from which you cannot turn off for a second. I mean, those two jobs, secretary president and chief of staff, are so crucial.
Very.
That you can make a president inefficient or unpopular or incompetent by the way you conduct yourself.
Join us on Footprints as Samuel Atamensa hosts Ambassador D.K. Osei, who shares his experience of working closely with various heads of state in Ghana. Footprints show this Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sunday at 4 p.m. only on City TV. City TV, it's your world.
Footprints is sponsored by Bethel Logistics Company Limited, experts in shipping logistics.
Hard-hitting reports.
So my worry is what is going to happen to this set of women, because a lot of them are out there, they are tired, they are sick, but the husbands, which are not even able to take care of them, still want them to keep giving birth.
Personal stories and lively debates direct from the African continent.
And the fact that our skin tone, in all its melanated forms, has been the subject of prejudice, has been the subject of slavery 400 plus years, and that also contributes to what we consider ourselves to be.
So what are you saying, Tato? That they will always have oppression attached to our identity?
No, but that oppression and those outside forces, the same way that a diamond is formed by outside pressures. Can I get a witness?
DW presents The 77%, a platform that discusses the things that affect the youth of Africa. From the innovations to the ideas and the transformations. Feel the pulse of Africa on The 77%. The 77% airs every Thursday at 1 p.m. and on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Only on City TV. It's your world.
Welcome back. It's Breakfast Daily on CCTV. We'll be listening to the Ministry of Information. They'll be briefing us on a bunch of other things, actually. The case counts now.
Yeah, the case count.
We've crossed 3,000.
Yeah. Yes.
So we'll hear from them. We'll cross over and then continue the show.
Has also taken place. So restrictions on public gatherings, mass gatherings, schools, religious and social as well as traditional activities have been imposed. The third level of restriction is the preventive etiquette, which we preach every day, including now the wearing of the face masks and the nose masks. We are implementing here at the Ministry of Information and in many other government offices, and we're also encouraging even private organizations and operators of public places to implement a no mask, no entry policy. And we spent time earlier this week pressing on you and your viewers and your listeners to abide by that policy because it is an important layer of protection. This morning, we want to deal with about 4 matters. First,